in honor of drama therapy, okay? And drama therapy week, I'm going to teach you a technique. Okay? It's called Magic Box. It was taught to me by Craig Haines back in NYU. Okay? I think I've said that NYU 1,000 times. Drop it like it's a flex. Okay, I'm flexing. All right, but I had some brilliant professors and who I think back and I really thank eternally for how much they taught me. So this is one technique he taught me. All right, so we're both going to raise our hands and imagine there's a big magic box above us. Okay, all right, and when I say go, we're going to pull it down. All right, ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go.
Hi, how are you, Anupriya?
I am so happy and excited to be here.
I am so excited and happy to have you here. First, I would like to tell our audience that you are the third certified drama therapist ever to come and teach in India. Is that right? To practice in India?
Yeah, I mean, like now we are 10 of us.
Wow.
But yeah, but at the point that I
You were
came
the
back,
top 3.
yeah, you can say that. But at the point I came back in 2016, I was the third person who had trained,
Wow.
qualified myself, and come back to practice here. So yeah,
That is an incredible feat and something for the history books. I know that we will be reading, or our future generations will be reading about as we move forward, right? I personally, I'm also an actor that I told you off camera as well. And for me, your line of work is extremely interesting and also very, I'm very intrigued to know more about it, as will our audience be. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about drama therapy? At first, I would like you to put it out in the simplest of terms, given that you know, people like us don't know anything about it, and then delve really deep as you want into what it means, you know, as a practice.
awesome. And thank you so much for your kind introduction and your kind welcome. I really hope that not just my work, but the work of what drama therapy as a profession is trying to do really keeps growing forward. And more and more people are talking about this. It's not like a niche conversation that 10 people are only having. And I'm so glad that I'm here today being able to talk about that with all of you and you. So let's start off with understanding what drama therapy is. So, I'm going to, should I be speaking in English?
Both, anything is okay.
All right.
Whatever comfortable.
Okay.
You can switch.
So let's imagine all of us in our bodies have a capacity to play, to be creative, to be imaginative, to be spontaneous, right? We are constantly doing things which are improvised decisions. Oh, mujhe chai pina hai, nahi pina hai. Ki, we are doing like, we're constantly using all these faculties in our body. All right. What does drama therapy do? We incorporate all these elements, play, creativity, spontaneity, in the process of supporting someone who's struggling with their mental health or physical well-being. How do we do that? All right. Suppose now I say that, "Acha, mujhe batao, how are you feeling?" Okay. So, agar bolna pade, it can feel very overwhelming, very difficult sometimes to name how you're feeling. Right? So, instead of that, if I offer, okay, don't talk about it. Give me a sound of how you're feeling. Or give me a movement for how you're feeling. Or pick an object around you that represents how you're feeling in this moment. Okay, this. Why did you pick this object? Because I'm feeling warmed up, ready to go, excited to be here and be with you right now, like this hot cup of chai. All right. So the wonderful part of drama therapy is being able to make those conversations which feel unplayable, inaccessible in our bodies, with our emotions, with our behaviors, with our thoughts, bring it to access, like be able to understand and feel that. Suddenly this cup is a metaphor of how I'm feeling, how nervous I am maybe, or how excited I am to be here. It represents so much more than maybe my words could put into, frame.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the simplistic understanding of what drama therapy is.
So, out of the simplistic understanding only, I have so many questions. I want to start with that when we, when we are kids, the sense of spontaneity, the sense of play, that you said are very intrinsic qualities in us, sort of start to fade away as we grow older, right? So how is it also sort of an unsaid or unspoken consequence of drama therapy to instill that back into an adult's life?
Yeah.
And secondly, this is one part of my question. And secondly, when you say that pick an object, to sort of, let's say an object is the closest thing to what I'm feeling for me to be able to explain, as your client, what I'm feeling. So is your office equipped, or your space, wherever you practice, equipped with like different kinds of objects and different kinds of like a plethora of things that help you, help your client sort of put a object to their thoughts?
So I think both beautiful questions and I need to answer separately.
Yes,
All right. And please remind me, my neurodivergent self has terrible retention. Okay.
no,
So if
please.
I'm not answering any of today happens to be the eve of International Drama Therapy Week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 22nd October to 28th October is International Drama Therapy Week.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And we have an World Alliance of Drama Therapy where you can see about 28 to 30 nations, including India, represented at. Recently, at the World Health Organization, there was a summit where we spoke about how they've launched a research series that is looking at the intersection of arts and health and the importance of considering it in terms of health overall. Because for them, for say Christopher Bailey, who's the lead on this project, or Jeremy Farrar. So Jeremy Farrar, who's the scientist at World Health chief scientist, said that arts and innovation, healing have intersected for ages. And we've constantly looked at arts and science as separate, but now there's enough and more research to support the fact that there is an intersection between these two, and we need to look at it deeper. So look at it from a prevention, treatment, management, education perspective. So now, because of that, there's an extensive research series that has started that's only looking at furthering our understanding of what arts can do to support health. And health being not just disease and symptom reduction, health being promoting, engaging, enabling the physical, mental, social welfare, and if I may add, the spiritual growth and development of individuals in communities. So when you look at it from that perspective, this is just what's going on right now in the world in terms of this conversation. But bringing it back more locally, right? To your question.
Yes.
Can you just repeat it one more time so that I know I'm answering?
The second question, the first one is pretty much answered.
How?
The second one was that does your space of practice have many different objects that people would want to, that they can sort of touch and use to identify their state of mind?
So,
or they can just, like, it can also be imaginative. It may not necessarily be physical.
So, our definition, I know, like, drama therapy, the moment you say drama therapy, a lot of people start imagining, oh, abhi acting karna padega, abhi dance karna padega, abhi mere feelings ko nikal ke lana padega, right? So, just to break that myth, okay, drama therapy starts from where you are at. And for that matter, creative arts therapy, expressive arts therapy, all forms of therapy actually start from where you are and what your understanding of art is. So, like you mentioned earlier, right, we lose that connection with play as we grow up.
Right.
As we grow up, first we think we can do whatever we want, we have access, we can be as creative as we like, we take risks, we jump into puddles, not caring. Now, if as an adult body I have to do actions which are unlike my normal actions, it takes an effort, right? Why is that? Because our current context of living is such where we are used to functioning as per the role we need to function in. So, मुझे काम करना है, मुझे बीवी बनना है, मुझे 16 बिल्लियों की माँ हूँ मैं, तो I have to look after these roles first, and then I'll take some time out if I can to be creative, to be artistic. So now, what drama therapy does essentially is whatever your understanding of art is, you don't believe in music, dance, drama, whatever. You believe in photography being your tool of expression. Great, let's work from there. That's my toolkit. It's what the client identifies as art in their body that matters.
And all of it is art, because art is so subjective.
Exactly. So we could be talking, but you're someone who's a radio jockey and you're comfortable with being verbal, vocal. So maybe I'll use that strength that you have in a psychodramatic enactment where you sit as one character and then you sit as another character and you talk as both the characters.
Oh, wow.
No, and see what okay, one is anger, one is calm. Both of them are having a conversation. What would you say? And calm would say, "Shant ho ja, क्यों गुस्सा खा रहा है? मैं बताता हूँ गुस्सा क्यों हो रहा है." Like, we can mobilize that strength that you have as an individual in that process. My favorite thing to quote actually is a quote by Parsuram Ramamurthy, who passed away this year, but he was a person who pioneered drama for autism in India using practices of Kathakali, face painting, and I have documented his work very closely. And he would say, see, diagnosis is what? Autism, you see, people will say repetitive movement, bad. Okay, but what else requires repetition?
Everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly. So, as a result, he said, all right, this is hand flopping. If you just turn and channel it into a different direction, it's music. If you channel it into hospitality, folding the bed every day.
Service. Wow.
So it's a very strength-based approach that no matter how many techniques we know, like in drama therapy is an umbrella term we use for multiple techniques that exist, like psychodrama, sociodrama, improvisational drama therapy like developmental transformations, role theory, role method, playback theater. We use an array of techniques in the process of supporting a client, but the client doesn't need to know how to how to be
your expertise as a drama therapist.
Exactly.
I want to delve deeper into role therapy and the other techniques you use, but before that, you said two very interesting things, and I want to ask for your permission to delve into both of them. But first one, you said that your neurodivergent self, and a retention problem. Is that something you would want to talk about?
Absolutely.
So could you please elaborate on that for our audience, and also how it relates to you becoming a drama therapist, given that, you identify as a neurodivergent person?
Yeah, absolutely. See, I think all of us are on some level neurodivergent, okay, on that spectrum.
That is true.
Because we hold traumatic information in our body.
Yes.
How that neurodivergence is experienced in everybody could look very different.
True.
But speaking to my neurodivergence, I think I'm a very high functional case of ADHD and a very trauma-informed case of ADHD. There's a quote by Irvin D. Yalom which says, "Only the wounded healer can truly heal."
Wow. It's beautiful.
I know, he's genius.
So true.
Yeah, and his works, Love's the Executioner, Creative, Creatures of the Day, are beautiful works to check out if you'll ever want to. But this quote really runs deep. And somewhere I think, even if initially when you go into training, you might not attribute it as a reason, that, there is personal experiences that I come from that I would like to gather perspective towards through the training of drama therapy. It is a huge part of it eventually when you go through training, because the first part of training is being able to work with yourself. Because if you can't, then you can't work with clients, right?
I think it's about the willingness also, which is a very, very easily misstep, that only a person who can heal is only the person who wants to heal, who wants to make a difference. I think that comes before anything else. And after that, is where anybody can come in and hold your hand and sort of, it's like you can take the horse to the pond, but you can't make it drink the water.
Exactly. And somewhere I think en route to understanding what the power of drama therapy can be for other people, it was very important to recognize and feel that power in yourself. And when you do that in the first 2 semesters of your training, you start realizing, okay, इतना दर्द कहाँ छिपा था, मुझे तो लगता था मैं ठीक है. Okay, and then you start going for therapy, you start being in these immersive spaces of processing with your body and realizing Your body has been like a hard drive of all your emotions, all your experiences, all this while. So, yeah, it's a core part. I think one of the things people don't understand about being a therapist in general is that it's constant hard work and constant work inwards.
On yourself, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be the absolute best version of yourself, or at least try to be. And that best, somebody said something so beautiful to me that I want to share with you, and I know that it will resonate with you given how, our conversation has gone so far. She said that, I was really beating myself up. As individuals, we can be very hard on ourselves, especially as creative people. I think it's just like a part of the hazard of the job, and the sky is the limit because there's no quantifiable measure of what's good enough, right? And she said that, Shafali, our job is to give our 100, she's a dear friend of mine, and she said, our job is to give our 100% to what we love every day, socially, professionally, in a familial capacity. But our 100% will not look the same every day.
Yeah.
And that acceptance is very, very necessary for any individual to be able to grow and do, their best. And I thought that was so beautiful, right?
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, in fact, because just like the last week with all the violence that we've been witnessing, right? With Israel-Palestine, just Northeast, if you look internally, closely, there's some violence going on. Sure. If you look externally, there's a genocide that is accessible at phone's reach right now.
And there's nothing we can do about it sitting here. And that's the saddest part of
this feeling is something that is overwhelming a lot of mental health practitioners. And then, this is my opinion, okay, not to hold anyone to it. Everyone needs to process in their own way and cope with this information in their own way. So, a lot of mental health practitioners are calling other mental health practitioners to action, that you need to do something about this right now. Feel this, be a voice, say stop violence. But at the same time, when I was holding my team and my supervisees in process this week, there was so much anger, cynicism, shame, guilt, numbness, disconnection that they were feeling in their body. And they were just going to skid past that and look at what work was. But we actually, when we landed up holding, we didn't focus on anything else. We just focused on holding all that vicarious observed trauma in our body. And with people allowing themselves to own that they are feeling that sense of inadequacy, helplessness towards what they can do. One of the things we came to by the end of that conversation was how it's absolutely okay to not be 100% all the time as a professional, because that's an inconsiderate expectation to have from your mental health professional who's also human.
Human being. Exactly.
Okay, if he was or she was or they were God, they have infinite capacity to offer you love, support. Great, keep expecting. But you are not God. You are a mental health professional who has a limited reservoir within which you are trying to hold, accommodate your feelings, the feelings of your family, the feelings of what's going on around you. And if that is too much, you need to disconnect. It is okay for you to disconnect. No one's holding you accountable. But there's such a pressure, capitalistic pressure. Show up.
Do your best. Do your 100%.
Have an opinion.
Keep hustling.
Yeah, have an opinion. Give a context. What's happening? Let me tell you what's happening. Yeah. Instead of sitting with it and just allowing yourself to hold that conversation. So, yeah, I'm very glad.
Space for the pain that you may be feeling. You used a very interesting term that I want to touch upon. You said observed trauma.
Yeah.
I thought that is a very interesting term, and I would say that it's very conspicuous when you think about something like the Israel-Palestine war that's happening right now.
Yeah.
But I think that it can be so inconspicuous and so subtle in our daily lives.
Yeah.
And could you please delve into that and explain what observed trauma means and how it manifests in the body and mind?
Absolutely. It's my day-to-day conversation. So, vicarious trauma or secondary PTSD or observed trauma, okay? These are all the different terminologies. Matlab kya hai? Imagine doctors, imagine journalists, lawyers, therapists, all right, who are constantly in these very high intensity jobs. Army people, right?
Right.
they're constantly, even if nothing has happened to them,
Right.
they are watching someone else experience death, suffering, pain, okay, loss in their body.
Right.
So there's enough and more theory and work around it. There's like this theory called trauma stewardship, which is what does it mean to take care of yourself and have a daily practice of offering your self-care while you take care of others. So that is trauma stewardship. But essentially what happens with these peeps, right, who are constantly in the space of working with other people's experiences of suffering and loss, is that your body also mirrors that. It holds that in your body. Now, how does it do that? Simple one thing I'll explain is your mirror neurons. Okay, what are mirror neurons? It's the neurons in your brain, your body that allow you to observe and participate in an action.
Sure.
So if I say, Shifali, do what I'm doing right now, okay, and you start mirroring me back, this is your mirror neuron activating. This is something that actors use constantly.
Yes.
Performers are constantly using to mirror what is expected of them in performance.
Correct.
Right? Now, doctors, lawyers and all, even if you feel like, yeah, I am objective, I've been trained to be objective, if you've seen this so closely, that energy transfers. That energy gets coded in your body somewhere.
Right.
So, for example, one day, at the first session I had in the day, there was a strong theme of feeling like a failure, feeling like not enough for playing up for the client in that moment.
Right.
By the end of the day, cut to, okay, I've been through 10 other meetings, whatever. I'm crying about how I feel like I'm not an competent therapist and I think I can do more. And then suddenly when I sit with it and process it in supervision 1 week later,
It's not you. It was never yours.
it was my client's energy at some level that I was holding in my body. And mind is also very smart, na? It's coded that information, perceived it, processed it in such a way that's telling you that you are a failure.
You are, it's yours.
It's yours.
Would you say that this is something that happens to everybody, or just I would say that as a mental health practitioner of any capacity, you are sort of more open, vulnerable, and also more empathetic? So, or is this something that everybody is capable of, just in different capacities?
See, the capacity to be an empath is there in
Everyone.
everyone. How attuned you are with it or tuning
that
it,
is subjective.
that's subjective.
Sure.
Okay. But
But that's what the example that you gave was an incredible example of observed trauma. It is something so, and it can happen to people who are not necessarily in high pressure jobs.
at
also.
all.
Let's say tomorrow I have a friend. I would consider myself a fairly, empathetic person. And let's say tomorrow I see my friend in a state of deep suffering. Somebody I really love. I won't go to parents because that is more obvious. Somebody I really love, my friend, and I see them in some kind of suffering regarding their, let's say, mental health, or let's say physical health, whatever. It would affect me deeply to not be able to help them, or maybe their anxiety regarding a particular thing might become my own, and I may realize it,
Absolutely.
and I may not realize it.
I mean, go back to COVID.
Yes. Oh my
Right?
God, that's such
I
a great
mean,
example.
Right. It's very recent. I think everyone can resonate with, even if you were not on a social media platform, didn't matter. Just being able to hear, know that other people are scared, are feeling nervous about their life right now, did transfer.
And it's sort of the converse is also true, that when you were watching the news of the death toll, there came a point where I felt so helpless that I actually disabled my news notifications because I couldn't bear the thought of that many people passing away every single day and me having absolutely no control over it.
Yeah.
It was so painful to watch and hear about. And I'm sure people who went through that loss, we can't even imagine, how it was for them.
I have worked with a lot of
COVID survivors, like
people who were orphaned, who lost near and dear ones, friends, were struggling in financial, non-financial, emotional spaces. It revealed to a lot of people that home was not a safe space for many, So there was a boom of conversations towards mental health
Yeah.
post-COVID.
It forced us to look within. Like there was just no choice. in
Because
that.
there was such overwhelm of information we were holding and we didn't know where to go with that information, what to do with that information.
Any distraction was taken away from you.
Yeah. And here is where drama therapy comes in, okay, with trauma-informed work. So, a lot of people assume that अभी अरे यार trauma के साथ काम करना है तो मतलब मुझे drama के तरफ जाना पड़ेगा, बताना पड़ेगा मेरा rape कैसा हुआ, मेरा murder कैसे, मैंने murder कैसे देखा. But that's a misconception we have where people think working with our trauma means revisiting, reenacting the most traumatic moments in our experiences. Let's understand what trauma is. Trauma is any overwhelming experience that pushes the body to the point of it needs to shut down to protect you. It needs to like do something extreme to protect you. So a lot of people say, I was in shock. I couldn't understand. That's because when your body gets hit with that information, your body is programmed to help you survive.
Yeah.
And it will kick in whatever it needs to help you cope.
Sure.
But if you don't check that, okay, if you don't support what you're feeling underneath that, like the pain, the sadness, the loss of comfort, the loss of identity that you're feeling at the base of it, that eventually gets fixated into toxic patterns of thinking, feeling, being. Okay, which is why trauma care is so important. Now, unlike myths and misconceptions around trauma care, what does trauma care first focus on? First, building safety, comfort, resilience. What has protected you so far? Let's understand that before we go any further. Okay? And sometimes that takes maybe months and months of work before we even delve into where this trauma is coming from. Where, and it's usually multiple experiences, not just one. Okay? Be it your own or the ones that are passed on intergenerationally or passed on from your parents to you.
That's such an easily ignored thing, actually.
Yeah, and then we are not even accounting for transgenerational trauma. Like I remember in your podcast itself, someone spoke about how we all hold the reality of partition in our body.
Sure.
Which is a traumatic information that we do hold. But what people forget to see with trauma care is there's a core of resilience that also kicks in when you're faced with that moment. That protects you, that makes you survive this unthinkable, unimaginable moment and come to your
And
here
it's
and
there.
now.
That capability again is there in everybody, and it just depends on how much you fine tune it to be able to serve you in a moment of trauma.
Yeah, and half the time building comfort is equal to building love, trust, compassion, and empathy towards those parts of yourself that you villainize, that you do hold in your shadow.
So hard to do sometimes, but I am a big fan of everything that you are saying. And I'm such a big fan of therapy.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that everybody needs therapy. And I don't say that as an insult. I say that because therapy has provided me some of the greatest tools to become the best and optimal version of myself.
Absolutely.
And it will equip anyone to do so if you just give it a chance.
Yeah.
So when I hear somebody say that I don't need therapy, that's it. I said, this is your red flag. Even if you are a walking, talking green flag, there's your red flag. Then you don't need therapy.
Shivali, I can't blame people because there's a lot of
Stigma attached.
and not for wrong reasons. Let's give two real reasons why my clients have stayed away from therapy.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, wow.
Like,
That's an interesting.
okay. One is the historical context.
Sure.
Okay, we are called shrinks. Why are we called shrinks as mental health professionals?
Why is that?
Because we used to perform lobotomies on
right,
brains
right.
and actually shrink
Shrink
the
the
brain,
brain.
cut out parts of the
Sure,
brain. So this stigma that we see is
has
a
come from
repercussion,
somewhere.
karam, okay, of our ancestors. So one is that.
Professional ancestors.
That we are manipulating, we are trying to control behavior and mind.
दिमाग चेंज कर
ओके तो एक तो वहाँ से आता है दूसरा जब कोई थेरेपी करने भी जाता है when they find a therapist that is telling them that ये सब तुम्हारे दिमाग में है.
ये भी होता है, ये आज के ज़माने में भी I cannot. Oh my God.
I completely hear you. In fact, to express my anger towards it, I did a therapeutic performance, 3 parts में, in a mockudrama, in a mockumentary, where I played a bad therapist. that did the most exaggerated ethical breaches you can ever imagine. The therapist was called Vimmi Kapoor. Like everything, cultural appropriation, जो भी बोलना है ना, तुम्हारा depression कुछ भी नहीं है, वो सब कर रही थी उस moment में. But you know what was ironic was when my clients saw that video, they said that, can you be Vimmi Kapoor? One of them said, can you be Vimmi Kapoor so I can just rant at you all my anger that I have about my ex-therapist. 80% of my clients who had come in that year had come from a previous experience of therapy that was
not good, invalidating.
Yeah. So when people have that, now I don't want therapy, I hear them. And the third thing I also like to honor is healing now happens only in relationships. I heard this first time from Maria Hodamaska, love her.
Right, please names down.
Okay, she was the program coordinator at NYU, and she said that healing only happens in relationships, no matter what those relationships look like. Whether that relationship is with your animal, your plant, your cooking, your spiritual practice, and you feel God in your body supporting you, whatever that higher, supreme, divine force is supporting you, then that's healing for you. If it works for you, what's wrong with that? Ideally, when people come to therapy, we don't want them to stay in therapy. We want them to, with every session, be able to discover how much power they have within them, right? And not be dependent on us. So if your healing is happening outside of therapy, great. We are happy.
Advocated.
Ideally, if you're a good therapist, you're happy about it. And the good, bad is...
Sure.
In drama therapy, we say good, bad is what? Good, in our understanding, is what's helping you. Bad is what's harming you. Sure. So don't use good, bad. That's judgment.
Yes.
But like...
It's all relative.
Yeah, it's all relative. And it matters on the context where you are in. Is it helping you or harming you?
You have said some very, very interesting things, and I keep forgetting because there's so many points that I want to touch upon. But one of the very important things that you said was about healing only happens in relationships. I think this is so beautiful because we had another therapist who was a dance and movement therapist on our podcast. Just,
Devika.
Devika.
She's awesome.
She's amazing. And she's used this term constantly called community. And she kept saying this thing, which I also didn't realize. It was a revelation for me that she said that we as a community is, when we come together, is when we heal. And that can look like very different things for different people. But a community naturally provides us with tools to be able to heal our traumas.
Yeah.
And now you have said this. I would say her approach was more ancestral based and more nature based, and you are talking more of individual relationships or a relationship to a thing also. It could be to a infinite force or I would say it's more modern, but it's pretty much the same thing that we as people, especially the Gen Z, and this is a big thing going on, Gen Z and millennials and all of that jazz. There is this concept that if I am not whole in myself, then I cannot be whole in a relationship. And while maybe a version of that is true in the sense that we cannot look to other people to fill voids within ourselves, we also, this hyper-independence is also a trauma response, right?
And this need for being perfect. Kahan se aa raha hai?
That you will heal when another person or your relationship or your feelings towards another person or thing or situation will sort of mirror back to you your strength that you spoke about, right?
Yeah, but a lot of times maybe you are in a loving relationship without knowing how to love yourself.
Yes, I think that's so beautiful. Let's say a client comes to you, okay? And they say that this is their problem. I know that this is very out there. So if you think that this is not something you can answer, please feel free. But let's say that a client comes to you, this is the first session, and they are fairly self-aware, and, they come and tell, because sometimes it really takes time to make the patient self-aware also. But sometimes you get
like artists and performers, people with psychosis tend to be very intuitive and very aware of who they are.
But sometimes people are not. right? But
Yeah.
sometimes the first you make them self-aware ki ye issue, and then you get on to healing it.
Which is actually two aspects of therapy, by the way.
As well.
It's either you're working with bringing it to awareness or bringing it to action. So, for example, you understand you're hungry, but jab tak you don't eat food, it's not going to go away, right? You're not doing anything to support your hunger.
Right.
Then the choices you make towards your hunger, are you taking junk, or are you having nariyal pani
Then it just sort
to
of
support? Are you taking supportive or harmful actions to your body? That matters. And sometimes what's happening is you've been taking action without bringing it to awareness. So I'm eating.
But pata nahi kya theek kar rahe ho.
But I'm not hungry. I'm stressed about kal ka exam, kal ka ye. Okay. So therapy is ideally looking at that balance that we are striking between awareness and action. So you're right.
Let me put a role play to you over here. That let's say that I come to you and I say that, I want to be in a loving, fulfilling relationship, or I am in a loving, fulfilling relationship, but I don't know how to love myself. So no matter how much my partner loves me or in what way he loves me, I do not feel complete. What would a session look like?
Oh, see, there's so many ways.
I know, but
ways it could
like
go,
let's say
right?
one, you said maybe here we can touch upon some of the techniques that you said, like
Right.
role theory and psychodrama and all of that. So let's say you take one approach. If
Perfect
it's
time.
out there, you can
No, absolutely. I think
Sure.
a lot of people need to have an embodied understanding of what to expect in a session to also know.
yes, that okay, maybe it'll resonate with some people, right? That
Correct.
this is something that, oh wow, can this work for me? Like
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. So ideally, now any session you break up, right? There's a usual check-in that happens. Like, hey, where you at? What are you feeling right now? Okay. Then we warm up to that theme more and more. And even with the warm up, the action, and then we move towards closing it up and transitioning out of the space and back into our daily realities. That's usually the arc of a drama therapy session. Arey yaar, point. Role therapy. Okay, now let's say we look at it from a role therapy perspective, role theory perspective. Role theory में क्या कहते हैं ना कि we are not made of just one role. We are made up of multiple roles within us, right? So
When you say role, you mean like mother, daughter, father,
it could be familial.
anything.
It can be body-based roles like age, gender, health. I'm a sick person. These are all body-based roles. Roles could be cognitive, which are like I'm the critical one, I'm the wise one, I am the perceptive one. Okay, so it can be cognitive, it can be emotional. I'm the angry one, I'm the rebellious one in my life. It can be so in social. There can be multiple intersections, right? Like familial, political, moralistic. And then there are aesthetic and spiritual roles. So the possibilities of roles are endless, right? Now
We wear all of those roles.
we
on a daily basis.
do. We just forget. We forget that all these roles exist within our repertoire, within our identity. And if I had to look at it from a role theory perspective right now, I would ask you like, okay, in accessing the love for yourself, what are some of the roles you need?
I would say a mother's love. I would say maybe a partner, a romantic partner's love. Obviously, my father, mother are the first people that come to mind. Even my brother, for some reason.
Right.
Friendly love, professional
Beautiful.
validation.
Now, did you notice? Now, this is another way to kind of use role theory, okay? Did you notice most of these roles were external roles? Right? So I might have, in my session, next gone to, so can we look at 3 internal roles also that's offering you that love, that guidance, whatever you need?
What would that look like? Okay, so let me answer that question for you. And you tell
I
me
can
that
also
is
answer.
that-
Yeah.
and then you answer it.
Yeah.
So if I were to look internal, would it be like a sense of compassion to myself?
Perfect. Yeah.
Would it look like maybe it can be more, I would say, conspicuous, like maybe just taking a day off and not doing
Offering myself time. Yes. Yes.
Okay, what else? What else could that look like?
I think you covered it so beautifully. And even in these 2, right? I think people get such a simplistic idea of we are looking at.
Not simple though.
It's not. It's not. No matter how simple your.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
it has depth. It has layers. And it definitely takes a little amount of training, a lot of training, a lot of practice to find your instinct with it. But, now if I'm in session with you, one aspect is identifying the need, like we did now. Okay, compassion dena hai, acknowledging all the external roles. Motherly love, is it an external or just an internal role that we need? For example, that professional love, is there something? So now if you say,
So maybe insecurity or inadequacy within yourselves that you're
wherever,
validation for.
wherever that need goes now, okay, now you want to explore it further. You could write a story about it. Okay, hero कौन है इस कहानी का? उसको क्या चाहिए लाइफ में? प्रॉब्लम क्या आ जाता है उसके साथ? Okay, so what is the primary conflict? And उसको help क्या करता है? This is hero's journey, which Robert Landy simplified from the hero's journey that's there, like Odyssey, etc.
So intrigued.
But now if you don't want to write, you don't want to tell a story, you're like, this is too much for
I
me.
can't do it.
Okay, I can't do it. Okay, tell me how you would want to explore it right now in your body, if you could, hypothetically. This is not a session.
I'm quite intrigued by the story approach, but I would definitely like to maybe just express, like I would say that I'm decent with words, so I would want to talk to you and tell you how I'm feeling. So I would go from that angle.
Beautiful. Now all these, what I might have done is asked you, okay, grab your notebook, grab your pen right now. Can you just draw a little image of how your like all these roles, what's coming up, and draw whatever comes first to your mind. And now hold this picture up and tell me a story about this picture.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So this is...
What? My mind is just, wow.
And for anyone who's watching this also, to understand that it really, it doesn't work from my expertise. It really leans from where you are at. So if you don't want, you say that I want to be verbal right now. I don't want to get into this art messy stuff right now. Please, मुझे just बैठ के बात करने दो. ठीक है, 2 chair पकड़ो. Okay, you want to talk to love and compassion today? Let's have a conversation. तुम एक चेयर में बैठो और लव और कंपैशन को दूसरे चेयर में बिठाओ. Okay? To do that, of course, there are some rituals. There's some... This technique that I'm talking about is called psychodrama, which was pioneered by Jacob Levi Moreno and Zerka Moreno, for me as much, but Jacob is on the papers. Okay? And this is called the empty chair technique. And what we are essentially doing is a psychodramatic enactment where the protagonist, say you, Shefali, are talking to compassion. Now, Shefali asks compassion a question. How do I love myself? All right. I say, freeze and reverse roles. Now, Shefali is going to get up from her seat and go and sit as compassion and answer to Shefali that, hey, you know what? This is what I think you should do or you can do. Essentially, you are approximating the answer, the conversation. But what happens is, A, you're building awareness and active understanding of what your emotions need. B, you're actually rehearsing it in body, in behavior. C, you're building perspective, which is what therapy is also about. You're building perspective to what you thought is inaccessible. I can't be compassionate to myself. Oh, wait, I've already been compassionate to myself in more ways than one. And these are some of the things I can do. That conversation gets engaged. And the last thing that that psychodrama as a goal would serve is the spiritual connection you'd feel. Where Moreno said that there is a certain oneness and wholeness we strive for to access our highest possibility, to access our truest self.
When you say oneness, what do you mean by that? With everybody around us, with our higher faith, higher self, or all of it?
So that's it. Now, wherever your level of seeing that is, right? You could believe in universe, you could believe in God, whatever that framework of higher force is for you. But what Moreno understood was that all of us somewhere in the core of our being strive for feeling that universality of experiences. A lot of people feel very alone in their illness, in what they experience. Like, oh, only I'm feeling this. You're right. There are experiences in your life that are very unique. But then that universality of pain and loss that
Yeah, the underlying feelings or the emotions might be the same, very much the same, because those emotions are limited only.
yeah, that underlying feeling of wow, I felt power and joy in talking to you,
Yes.
right, could be the same.
Sure.
But it's just not always, and we wonder if we are right or wrong. Are we actually feeling connected, or are we disconnected? So when we start connecting to that capacity to be able to see ourselves in the intersection of not just our personal self, our social selves, integrated, that's somewhere going towards that spiritual self understanding.
Now that you have said this, this word spiritual, I feel like it's sometimes it's used as such a fad. People maybe, it means a lot of different things to different people. But I feel like this term that you use, universality, there is this certain sense of, universal understanding of what it is all about, right? So I want to understand, and you use this in the beginning of our chat as well, that there is a sense of spiritual growth that comes with drama therapy. What does that look like? And what does that look like for you as a practitioner, or maybe some of your, clients as well? Both, either I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah, I think when you've seen that much in your life, right? I just recently did a Reiki course, and to be very honest, I have to own this right as I start off. I am someone who's discovering what my spiritual practice looks like.
Sure.
For me. I'm not I've just done the Reiki course, so there's the understanding of what spirituality means to me. I'm in a very nascent understanding of looking at it. But
That's the beauty of it though, right?
Yeah, always.
It can always be so subjective, and you can be anywhere in your journey in spirituality, as long as it makes sense to you.
Exactly. And you feel a connection with that
higher
awakened
power.
empath in you, that
Sure.
clairsentience, that clairvoyance within
Sure.
you, right? And whatever it means to you, you can work from there. You
Right.
don't have to be better or less.
Right.
This higher force, whatever it is abundantly loving. It
Right.
doesn't want you to be fearful.
Right.
So somewhere, when I work with trauma very closely, the capacity to believe in abundance, the capacity to believe in love, mobilizing that, right, really comes close to that spiritual practice. Like, one of the things I see working magically with clients is chanting and singing.
Kind of chanting.
So chants can be non-religious, religious, whatever you really
Like a
gravitate.
repetition of any affirmation, it could be that.
Yeah, so like for example, in Reiki, and what my therapist does with me is the Ho'oponopono prayer, okay, which is a 4-line prayer that was created for prisoners. And it's basically, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. All right, now that can be the chant you keep repeating, you keep saying to yourself. Or singing is considered like praying twice. So anybody who sings, you are channeling, awareness and connection with all your chakras. Okay, so when you sing, there's so much power. And I see people in, like, or I'll be honest, when I trained in drama therapy, the transpersonal end, the spiritual end was not really delved into too deep. It's like, oh, careful, let's not get religious.
Taboo topic.
Right? But if my client goes towards Hanuman Chalisa very normally, Hanuman aa raha hai mujhe protect karne ke liye. It's the same thing. It's not.
Different word.
Yeah. So now that in American standards would be like, you hear voices of divine forces. But a lot of people who've gone through trauma will say they have experiences of talking to their gods, talking to people who've passed on to the other realm, and hearing what they would say. So there is a transpersonal conversation that I think drama therapy is able to access and hold very easily. Okay, so for example, that little enactment we did, right?
Right.
After that, usually in a psychodrama, what you'd have is you'd allow the protagonist to like de-roll, not the protagonist, but the space to de-roll. If you're doing this in a group, you come back to the group and you ask the group to share what connected with them when they saw that performance.
Wow.
Okay, when they, not performance, but when they saw the enactment take place.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And when they share, there's usually that sense of oneness, connection that people feel, which makes them feel like I'm not alone. And that is essentially what spirituality
That
is.
sense of community, that sense of belonging and oneness, as you correctly said.
Yeah. And knowing abundance in your body.
Very beautiful, I think. And I want to ask you, this is probably one of my last questions before I, leave the mic and stage open to you. I want to ask you that how has drama therapy impacted your life, like as a practitioner, but also as an individual, like as a person who, let's say you weren't doing this for a living, but you only did it for yourself. What is the impact that it has brought into your life?
It changed me. It helped me. It healed me. Like, I think when I trace back to starting school on day one, I was so excited. Like, I'd been trying to get into drama therapy for 2.5 years before that. I was at NDTV working for a year before I went for my course. And my parents didn't believe that drama therapy was such a...
Be anything.
They just thought I'm looking for any excuse to go and act in New York. But when they realized that no, it's a full profession, 25 साल से चालू है. NYU में पहला program आया था. They started, and NYU में मेरा selection हो गया. They gave it a little more gravitas.
Of course.
Okay. and through the training, I would have never chosen to think of how important it is to heal if drama therapy didn't happen in my life. I don't think I would have found this language of care, compassion, of strength towards myself and towards my clients. When I see them, now I can feel what they need and attune to that need because of drama therapy somewhere. And whenever I feel like I'm lost, that play will come in and protect and support, not just me, but the client also. So there's a magic of drama therapy that I felt in my body in the kind of opportunities I've been able to create of growth. Today, if you ask me as a drama therapist, I'm not just a clinician. I'm an artist, I'm a researcher, I'm an advocate. I run my own space. I have a team. I have done work as an intimacy coordinator on a film about child sexual abuse. I have consulted on scripts and helped people understand and arrive at what that nuanced understanding of a character could look like. Helped myself write scripts, fictional, non-fictional, directed documentaries, directed mockumentaries, directed therapeutic films, therapeutic theatre and cinematic productions. So drama therapy at the core taught me that the possibility is endless. And I'll actually give you an example of what I said in my interview to NYU. They said, why drama therapy? Okay. And I said, okay, imagine I place this glass in front of you and I tell you you are a camera and you can capture this in as many perspectives as you want. How many perspectives would you be able to capture?
Possibilities are endless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what drama therapy is for me. I feel like it's that camera. You can go anywhere you need to, place it and help a person access that dialogue in their life.
Wow, that is so powerful and so intense in the best possible way. I want to ask you one last question, which is very funny also. That does it happen sometimes that you are so used to dealing with clients and you're so used to dealing with people, who you are helping as a practitioner of drama therapy, that sometimes it carries forward into your personal lives and, your familial or romantic or friendly relationships and your friends like, nahi yaar, humko therapize mat kar. Aisa, does that happen sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. Remember vicarious trauma that we were talking about?
Yeah.
In the 16 symptoms that you would notice is there's a grandiosity of your profession. Okay? तुम्हें पता है मैं डॉक्टर हूँ, मैं जान बचाता हूँ. Okay? You're like, I'm so important. Grandiosity is one of them. Cynicism is one of them. Anger, shame,
So does
guilt.
that show up in all?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should ask my husband and see the scars on him. No. Yeah, for sure.
I think he's going to be our next guest on the podcast then.
Living with a drama therapist.
What is that? That's a whole new segment for us now.
It's he needs therapy for a reason now. But
And not
honest,
from you.
you can't.
You can't do that. That's not.
And also,
actually,
it
that's
would.
not ethical.
I don't think he definitely wants it. Even if I gave him the option,
That's true.
let me get away. But very honestly, what you're pointing out, I don't think in our current education systems it's really emphasized how much people, mental health practitioners who are in training, need to be in therapy. It was compulsory for me to be in therapy, to be in supervision, but I'm in multiple programs across this country. We have people who get qualified at a master's level without not even an hour in therapy themselves.
Is that the ideal scenario? No, right?
No, not at all, because
There's no objectivity.
we tie back to vicarious trauma.
Sure.
What are you doing with all that information that's getting coded in?
There's no objectivity. There is
Yeah.
no. Wow.
And jitna bhi self-care kar lo. Okay, like we are trained to be able to distance. I'll do one little activity before we leave after this, but we are trained to be able to distance ourselves from the story, from the narratives our clients bring in, and trained to be able to play along with it, play with it in that moment also.
Like there's a sense of detachment, would you say?
You need to be able to detach and attach, because
It's not.
now if I start behaving like Anu, the cat mama, or the wife, and I keep playing that in every role. Right now, it's not going to work. Right now, I need to be the interviewee who's talking about drama therapy. Right? So there are certain balances that go off. the balance.
Social, thought, behavioral changes that go on, and if emotional changes that happen.
Right. And I've can you circle back to the last point I said?
You said that that there are so many people who have only done like not even 1 hour of therapy.
Correct. And
And
just
that's not the
circling.
ideal.
Yes. Thank you. Circling back to, it's not ideal for people who are holding other people to not be holding their own needs at all, because eventually then there's a filter forming of your experiences, your biases. How are you correcting that? How are you working on that? And as a therapist, as a doctor, a journalist, you definitely need to be in therapy. Like, no two ways about it.
It's quite an insight, I'm sure, for a lot of people watching also.
Yeah. It's not negotiable.
It's non-negotiable.
It's non-negotiable.
Wow. I think this has been such an incredible chat. Is there anything else that you feel like you would want to touch upon before we leave? Anything that you feel we have missed? Or you just, as a parting note, any words of wisdom? Although everything has been words of wisdom for me at least, and I know for our audience too. But anything else you would want to say, or are you good?
You're so kind. But I think anybody who's wondering whether creative arts therapy, drama therapy can be something for them,
I'd say the answer is yes. So I would definitely say that you should say it too.
I would like to just link a few resources then for people like you to go forward and look at. There's a space called the World Alliance of Drama Therapy. They have a wonderful website where they share all the training programs that are available across the world. Short courses, diploma courses, master's level and PhD level courses. So as it is International Drama Therapy Week, please do look at their website and do try to learn more. They also have a section which is called News that updates you on all that's happening in drama therapy worlds across the drama therapy conversations across the world. So yeah, please direct your attention. We are usually very easy to access people. Ek message maroge, call maroge, and we'll always be there to support you. Sure. If you're a client who's curious and looking at this, and wondering what to do, just reach out to your nearest creative arts therapist, drama therapist, and really ask those questions and see how play can support you. If nothing else, I hope this conversation makes everyone want to explore creativity, play, and creativity is what? Your ability to take risk. Spontaneity is what? Your ability to just be in the moment and respond the way you think. Instinctively, intuitively, right? And imagination is where reality might have limits, but imagination is everything is possible. So when you can, I really hope everyone watching this can start thinking of using all those reservoirs they have within themselves
Me too.
more and more deeply.
Wow, I don't think we could have had a better end to the podcast. I cannot thank you enough. This has been, it has been so enriching, so mind blowing. At some points, like if the camera catches that, I'm just, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because I'm so blown away by the things that you have said.
It's the work, yeah.
Like I'm coming to you, I know that. I cannot imagine the infinite ways it would help me not only as a person but as an actor. I hope that you can reach as many people because this is so incredible.
Just before we go, in honor of drama therapy, okay, and drama therapy week, I'm going to teach you a technique. Okay, it's called Magic Box. It was taught to me by Craig Haines back in NYU. Okay, I think I've said that NYU 1,000 times. Drop it like
it's a flex.
It's a flex. Okay, I'm flexing. All right, but I had some brilliant professors and who I think back and I really thank eternally for how much they taught me. So this is one technique he taught me. All right, so we're both going to raise our hands and imagine there's a big magic box above us. Okay, all right, and when I say go, we're going to pull it down. All right, ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. All right, okay. Now we're going to push it 3 times to the right. Yeah. हो गया.
अच्छा,
Gravity अभी काम करने का. Okay. Now we're going to push it 3 times to the right. Okay. And it's got a little lid now on top of it, like you can see. तो उसको उठाना पड़ेगा. तो we're going to push it 3 times to the side to open up the lid. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, push. And 1, 2, 3, push. And 1, 2, 3, push. And just we're going to gently lift up the lid and let it go to the ceiling. Okay? तो ये हमारा मैजिक डब्बा खुल गया. ओके, अभी इस मैजिक डब्बे में ना हमें जो भी छोड़ना है इस कॉन्वर्सेशन से नहीं लेकर जाना है वापस. वी कैन पुट दैट इन एंड वी कैन टेक
चाहिए लेकिन
और kindness and then you can also think of what you want to take back.
Sure.
That's the second part.
Okay.
But first, what do you want to leave behind? कुछ तो एक चीज.
ठीक है. Maybe, when we were talking about observed trauma, so a lot of like pain came up for me for that, my parents suffering and a little bit of like my friends suffering that came up. So maybe I can just.
कहाँ से निकाल रहे हो?
इधर
है, निकालो. How are you taking it out? Scooping it out?
Yeah,
pulling
I'm
it out? Scooping?
I'm pulling also.
You're scooping and pulling. We're scooping and pulling. मैं भी वही निकालती हूँ क्योंकि हाँ यार थोड़ा सबका क्यों लेकर बैठना all the time. All right? Put it in. हाँ, all right. देखो मैं रिंग भी डाल रही हूँ. All right. Now we have to take back something. थोड़ा कमरा बन गया है ना. So what are you taking back from this session?
All the knowledge. I feel a sense of freedom. And I feel a sense of curiosity that I would like to explore. A sense of healing. सब कुछ है, जगह है सब कुछ लेने की.
Oh, yes. ले लो. Okay, बिंदास. It's infinite. Magic box है, जितना लेना है ले लो. Okay, मैं भी थोड़ा तुम्हारा kindness, तुम्हारा compassion लेता है. बहुत अच्छा लगा. And I'm taking gratitude with me for both, for all of you, the team, you holding this space and this conversation. So thank you. ये हो गया, कुछ और लेना है?
नहीं, सब ले लिया.
तो बंद कर ले बॉक्स को. एक बार ऊपर से लिड खींचते हुए नीचे. And we're going to push to the left this time. Huh? Because we have to close the lid. All right? 1, 2, 3, push. And 1, 2, 3, push. And 1, 2, 3, push. And then pick it up. And we're going to put the box away in our own individual ceiling. This box is with you whenever you need it. Whenever you need to shift out of something, move into something, de-roll, or take something you need. This box is always available for you. This is a little offering from my end to you. For everything you gave me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I loved it.
Thanks.
That was so cool.
ना थोड़ा embodied experiential भी हो गया.
और तो highlight होगा हमारा.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing so much of you and what you do with us.
Thank you, and I hope I get to keep coming back and continuing this conversation
in a heartbeat.
in more ways than one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shafali.